Hello, folks. Welcome. We'll just let everybody get in and then we'll get started. So just give us about one moment to let folks join the session. We're so grateful you are here with us to create and practice. We love learning with you all. Folks, if you're just joining, we're giving it about a minute for folks to enter the space, and then we will get started with our practice. We're so glad you're all here with us. Great. I'm going to bring my video up and welcome you all. Hi, everyone. My name is Kat Redness. I'm so thrilled to be here with you. I am the public programs educator at Shelburne Museum, and I am joined with my phenomenal colleague and also phenomenal human, Sarah Wolfson. Sarah, how are you today?
I'm good. How are you, Kat?
Good. I'm really excited. We're doing birds and animals today. So this is going to be an exciting, very adorable day, very beautiful day. So we're going to continue the work that we've been doing from the other two sessions. If you haven't been to those, that's absolutely okay. You're still able to do these as a standalone. And if you'd like to revisit any of these go on our website under Learn Webinars. All the recordings go there. So if you want to revisit the first two sessions, or you would like to check this one out again, feel free to visit us there. They are normally up by the end of the week or sometimes the early following week, but they'll be up very soon. And that's a great way to revisit this and continue your practice. So today we are going to introduce the session. We're going to do close looking again, which we've started every time, which is just a way to get our eyes and our observational skills warmed up. We're going to do some shape speed sketches with owls and pigeons. We are then going to do some gesture drawing with the red phalarope. And then we'll bring it together with that same image. And then we're going to take some of those techniques that we've learned for birds and other nature drawings and apply it to mammals. And we're going to look at a doe and a fawn. And then we'll close and we'll have questions and we'll talk about next session, which is our final session. This seems like a small amount, but within those owls and pigeons, you're going to do several different drawings. We're going to do a lot of short, small drawings today. And so there'll be a lot of opportunities to practice. And then at the end, we'll close with two kind of longer sessions of drawing, one for the red phalarope and then one for the deer. So we'll get started. So when we do close looking, what we're doing, if you haven't been here with us before, is I'm going to show you an artwork that comes from our permanent collection. And we're going to see, we're going to describe what we're seeing, what we're noticing, and what we're wondering. And with this, we really want to look at how the animals are being drawn, how they're depicted, the composition of them. And we're going to show you two things. And we won't go a ton into this. You'll see this listed on the slides, but these are two very different types of drawing. We're going to go one, which is a more technical drawing, and then one, which is not as much a technical drawing and more of a fine art drawing. So we're going to start, and we're going to start right here with close looking. And so this is Band-Tailed Pigeon by Robert Havell after John James Audubon. So what I'd love you to do is in the Q&A, that's how you'll communicate with us today. In the Q&A, put any of the observations that you're having. And so this could be, what are you noticing? Oh, swooping shapes. Exactly. So this could be how you're noticing the shapes of their bodies, colors, feathers, anything you're noticing. Bridget, we love that you're starting us off. Oval shapes, subtle colors, great. Fine lines, yes, absolutely. Neutral colors, so we're seeing, yup. Flowing lines, so we've got fine lines, flowing lines, swooping, similarity of shape. That's a great thing to notice, and that's really going to help us as we're looking into the next exercises. Harmony, stylized, flat. White flowers do not stand out, so they're there just as a background. Yep. Bright background, iridescence on the birds. There's a balance, beautiful detail, soft colors. The birds and the leaves are almost the same line, texture, and color balance. I'm seeing balance again. Smooth lines, love the flowers. The gripping feet, I love that detail. So we see those feet gripping the leaves and the petals, and the birds' tails are very similar. Different shades of gray and green. Phenomenal. Thank you for all of these answers. Soft branches, contrast between lights and darks. Thank you so much for this. And I want to move on. So this is Audubon. So this is flat, neutral lighting, no background other than the foliage. So we've got that flatness. Yes.
Yeah. So this would be what would be seen as more of a scientific illustration. So these are some of the characteristics of a scientific illustration where the lighting will be more neutral. It might look more flat. The background is usually simpler because the idea is to show people what the bird or animal looks like. Maybe this would be printed in a field guide. So it's just supposed to be kind of a realistic representation of a bird without without uh, too many other exciting things going on.
Amazing. Okay. So now we're seeing the opposite. Or not the opposite, that's the wrong word, but we're seeing this fine art piece that has stronger light and shadows, a more romanticized background, and brighter colors. What are some of the things you're observing about this? And this is Martin Johnson Heed, and this is hummingbirds, two sun gems, and a crimson topaz. What do we notice about this? Deeper perspective, right? So that depth, flat versus depth. Excellent. Yeah. Tail feathers are so fanned out. There's more movement in this. We're seeing movement. We're seeing there's a darkness in this. The rule of thirds. Yes, we're drawing the eyes around the canvas as opposed to that technical scientific drawing where everything was really kind of centered. Yes, more movement, highlights on the birds' backs. These birds aren't realistic. True, yeah. So we're not necessarily as tied to like a dramatic realism, but the birds are popping out. The brightness, contrast, more action, reds and yellows. Detailed fine lines, contrasting colors, richer colors, and darkness. Yeah. This one feels more emotional. I love that we're getting into, yeah, the feel of it. Directional lighting, excuse me, drama. More interesting to someone's eye. The hummingbirds look like they might be acting aggressive. We're sensing, we're getting that sense of emotion in this ethereal background, viewing through a circular lens. So we're also noting the composition of this and how this is asking us to look. Wonderful. Thanks for all of that feedback, and thanks for participating in this. It's telling a story. Yes. And we see that somebody commented on this spot of blue that we're seeing to have this kind of opening in the clouds, which gives us more of a sense of place. So, we're going to start with shapes, speed sketches of shapes. And so, some of the things that Sarah and I want you to hold on to for this is stay light and loose. Don't overthink and don't erase. Just keep going. Start with the larger, more obvious shapes and build off of that. Do you see a circle? Do you see an oval? Do you see a triangle? You can experiment with simplifying the bird into geometric shapes, or you can kind of do more organic shapes. And so we're going to start with some of those ideas. Sarah, anything else you want to say before we go into the demo for that?
No, I think we're good. I'll just just kind of
Right.
chime in as the demo's playing.
Great. So we're going to focus on these owls first, and we're going to show two demos that Sarah did with these owls. So these are two 45-second sketches, and you're going to see these in real time. And so we're going to see Sarah draw.
So I was drawn to the head to start this one. This is, let's see, yeah, this is the bird in the foreground, the one that's closest to us. So breaking it down into simpler shapes. I was going with more of the organic shapes. So instead of trying to simplify it even further into, perhaps an oval for the body, I am going with a bit more of the organic kind of natural shape of that kind of tapered sort of oval, or you could even kind of look at it as almost like a rounded out triangle.
Mhm.
So real quick, just simple shapes.
What I like about this too is I noticed that you put in a shape for the eye, so you're kind of grounding yourself in where that eye is. And then even I noticed when you're doing the talons, they almost are just this little loop, but you're giving them a place in this.
Hmm.
So this is the next one. So this will be the upper owl on the top in the background.
So once again, for this one, I am starting with the head. You'll see in some of the ones that we have coming up, I don't necessarily start with the head. But for some, whatever reason, that's what I was drawn to for the owl to begin with. And now I'm working on the body, kind of the big, simple shape for the tail. And now with the time I have left, now I'm going in because you can see the chest is kind of divided up into kind of two sections. So now I'm going in and defining that and then adding on to that to show the back, making some tweaks to the head, and then finding those shapes for the feet, which reminded me of triangles. And that was as far as I got in the time we had.
And somebody said it really is an adorable day. I like that. Yes, you're dealing with cute things today, very beautiful things today. So now we're going to ask you to do speed sketches. You'll do two of these. So choose one first and then choose the second. And again, these are going to be very short. We're talking 45 seconds here. So get your pencils and paper or whatever utensils you're using, whatever media you're using, and we're going to have you begin 45 seconds. Choose one of the owls and go now. And again, think of this. This is kind of you're setting your foundation for the rest of your sketch. This is a way to get the proportions, kind of understanding the basic anatomy of how this animal is put together. 15 seconds left. And pick up your pencil. So that was your first speed drawing. So now just shake your hand out if you need to, refocus, and now you're going to do 45 seconds with the second owl. So whichever one you didn't do, choose that now and go ahead and do that one. And let's begin. About 10 seconds left. And pick up your pencils. All right. So we have our basic sketches here and our basic shapes of our owls. We are now going to move on to pigeons. So we're going to take some of that same practice. Sarah, anything you want to note about the pigeons with this, or we'll do this while you're drawing?
Yeah, I'll just
Great.
kind of chat as we go. So I'm doing the same thing here. So 45-second timer. So 45 seconds per bird. So with this one, instead of starting with the head, and this is maybe because the head isn't as prominent for the pigeon as it was for the owl, I chose to start with the body. So I jump from the body to the head, then back to the tail. Now defining that wing that's closer to us, kind of defining that, separating that out from the rest of the body. Noticing that the body shape and the wing shape are pretty similar. and adding in where the legs are. And that was that for my time.
Great. And this is the second pigeon.
Oh, I think this might actually be the same one.
Oh,
And that's okay.
that's my fault, friends. I apologize. We have so many birds. Okay, it is the same one. This is what we did. Great. It just stayed on the same page.
Oh, gotcha.
This
Okay.
is the inspiration. Yes, great.
Yeah, this one was a little bit more complex because you had kind of the two wings that were pretty visible going in the different directions. And so once again, I did start with the wings. That seemed to be the best place to start because they were kind of very prominent in the image. And now going in and adding, working on the body and the leg and then the tail. So really trying not to get bogged down with the details and the exactness of the shapes, going with simplifying the shapes. This one had more shapes to find. There we go.
Hmm. And it's wild because this positioning of this bird feels almost very unnatural, but obviously it's a very natural thing. But right, I get to watch Sarah do these, and so seeing it come to light and seeing, right, we've got kind of this rectangular, we've got oval into this sharpness. So really fascinating to see how that's approached. So now we're going to give you 45 seconds for this. And again, pick one of the birds first. And then we'll have another 45 for the second. So begin now with whichever bird you're choosing. 15 seconds left. And pick up your pencil or pen. How was that for folks? If anybody wants to chime in and talk about how that was, feel free to share. We have just a moment, but if anything, any reflections people are having about how that worked out for them, please let us know. Great. So, oh, great. I see a response. Let me just double check. More complex. Yeah. So it's this layering of shapes a bit. Yeah. You're kind of figuring out what's on top of what, how those shapes speak to each other. Thanks so much, Linda. So now we're going to look at gesture drawing. And so again, we're going to stay light and loose, not overthink, don't erase. We're going to start with one center line that kind of captures the gesture from head to tail, and then building off of that center line with additional lines for wings, feet, and legs. Sarah, any other things you want people to remember as we're going into gesture drawing?
Yeah, and just kind of the general idea that the goal of a gesture drawing is to kind of capture the movement of a figure, whether it's a human figure or an animal, bird, things like that. So also stay light and loose, and the goal here is to capture movement. And if you're not quite sure kind of what this all looks like, you'll see in the video, and I'll chat about it as we go.
Great. So this is right here. So we're looking at this new image on the right.
And I believe this is the bird in the top left.
Yeah.
Yes. So, real quick, kind of started with capturing kind of the head to tail in one line, and then adding the wings, the beak with additional lines. Now, jumping down to the next bird, which has that nice kind of curved posture, adding the other bird. So, you see how quick these are. even faster than the shape sketches, just trying to capture the movement and the posture with a few simple lines. Going back in with a little extra time, just try to find other features that I could add. And then going back in and kind of building off of that with the shapes, almost using those gesture marks as like almost like a skeleton. Once again, finding the bigger shape. And that
Yeah.
must have been my time. Yeah.
And Sarah, I love that you said skeleton, because that's what I was noticing as you were drawing these. It almost feels like you're putting in the skeletal structure of a bird,
Hmm.
especially when we're thinking about birds, because they're so small. And I think about these bird bones, so it almost feels like we have this tiny bird bone skeleton
Yep.
happening here. So this is the larger picture, the larger version of what you're going to be doing. You all are going to be doing gesture drawings based on this. And Sarah, do we want 2 minutes? Is that what you'd like? 2 to 3?
I'm trying to remember what I did. I did actually just a total of 90
Okay,
seconds
great. We'll
for
do
mine.
90. Perfect.
So yes, it is very quick. So the main goal will be to capture the gesture of each of the birds, and then if you have time, see what you can add in for shapes.
Wonderful. So we're going to get started right now. And perfect. So 90 seconds on the clock and pencils on your paper. And let's do gestures. And I do encourage, because we want to do that kind of speed, try to get, if you can, at least a gesture for all three birds if possible. 1 minute left. 30 seconds left. And 5 seconds left. Begin to wind down where you are. Great. So how was that? How was drawing the gestures for you? How did that feel different than shapes? What did you notice? Anything you'd like to share? And I'll just give a moment in case anybody wants to reflect. Turned out very abstract. That's okay. And I think, right, like almost you're you're building on top of a skeleton. They really look like birds. Yes. I think it's when I see this, I remember how much birds and dinosaurs are related and connected because of the bends and everything. Variety of lines, more free flowing, capture the movement. Exactly. Gesture is there to capture the movement. You've got the body structure with the shapes, and then you've got the gesture that is putting that movement to the shapes. Enjoyed trying to capture the movement. Took some time to get into just lines. Roundness of the birds, loose and fun, easier for me to go faster. Exactly. Sometimes people are like, oh, that's too fast, but sometimes that speed is actually really helpful to keep
Yeah.
you moving. And so, yes. And so I'm glad that you reflected on that. And yes, sketchy, exactly. This is what this is. This is your foundational sketch. Okay. So now we're going to bring it all together, the shapes and the gesture and some of the things we've been focusing on. So for this, we are going to give you we're going to give you a larger amount of time to do this. We're going to give you about 8 minutes of drawing. So this will be a larger, longer process. So we want you to choose one bird and start with gesture and or shapes. You can mix that around. Maybe you want to put the gesture in first, like Sarah did in this last one, and then go back and put shapes on top. Or maybe you want to start with shapes and that works really well for you. Then we've noticed this in some of the observations people have given. Look at the feathers and how they're separated into different groups. For birds, feathers are obviously a really, really crucial part of how their shape exists on a page. Think also about the placement of the eye. We saw that when Sarah did the owl, where there was an eye kind of creating a grounding place. And that's important for accuracy and expression. Also, think about where it is. Sometimes on birds and on animals, even on people, we think they're higher than they are. We think they're more central than they are. So, really pay attention to where they are on the skull and on the head. And we're going to give you 8 minutes. And this is where you can start to build in the structure. And then if you want, build in details and you're going to have a good deal more time. So this is going to be an 8 minute draw right now. And so what we want to do is before you show that, this is what Sarah got in 8 minutes. So you do not need to have a finished product. This is Sarah going in. You can see some of the foundational lines that she created. So there's those gesture lines underneath, and then that going back with some of the shapes on top of that. Sarah, anything you want to offer about this sketch before we have folks do theirs?
No, I think you captured it all. Except I will add that I found the hardest part, which I did last, was the foot. And now I'm looking at it. I'm like, oh, it's not looking quite as, how I would want it to look, but that's all part of the process.
Yeah,
So yeah, so for your drawing, so I chose that bird in the upper left. So it is up to you which bird that you choose to focus on.
great. Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
So this is your inspiration. This is your piece. So choose any one of those three birds, and I'm going to give you 8 minutes on the clock and begin now. We're going to turn our cameras off just so we are less on your screen, but please know we're here to answer any questions throughout, and we'll do some check-ins. And we also focus, we're here. So please reach out if you need anything. 1 minute has gone by. 2 minutes. 5 minutes left. Halfway, just a little over halfway. Two minutes. Thirty seconds. And finish up what you're drawing and come back into the space with us. How was that for folks? Any things you want to share about how that was, how you built in shapes and gesture into that, what you found tricky, what flowed for you? Such fun. Great, Marion. So glad. Realized I didn't need to rush. Right, giving yourself more time. Time to add a rock and a shadow for the bird.
That's
Feathers are
great.
tricky.
That's why it is helpful to kind of look at them instead of individual feathers, but instead of individual feathers, look at them more like kind of those groups of feathers that I had
Mm.
mentioned. Because yes, they are tricky.
Suzanne saying the line drawing helped with the shape of the wings. What is the orange bird again? So this piece is called red phalarope. I'm not sure if they are all a version of that. That would be my guess. Um, Capturing the shapes was fun. Details on the feather was challenging. It really looks like a bird. The owls were simpler. Yes, the
Yep.
owls have much simpler shapes. The angles of the wings, especially, were difficult, but crucial to get right. I love how you can see both the eyes on the little guy at the bottom. It makes his expression funny. Yes. It made it too fat. Yeah, that's okay. I went back and changed the overall shape. The twisted wing was tough. Yeah. These wings, if you look, there is fat birds are good birds. Yes, we love a chonker. I'm a chonker myself. So, yep, fat birds are great birds. Foreshortening was hard. Yes,
Yeah.
foreshortening is really challenging. And that's always something we come up with, whether we're doing figure drawing or whether we're doing portrait drawing or animals. You did some shading in the dark sections. Great. Thank you so much for sharing all of that feedback and where, you're coming from with these drawings. Angles of the wings. Yeah, and these wings specifically, we have three birds in three very different positions, all with their wings. One with their wings kind of out and flat, the other flying, the other one looking like it's about to kind of either attack or take off. So yeah, these feathers are and wings are very unique and very interesting shapes to kind of play with. So, we are now going to apply shape and gesture to mammals. So, we have our mammal friends right here. This is Arthur Fitzwilliam Tate, and this is a doe and two fawns. So, I just want you to take a minute. This is going to be the piece we're going to be looking at. We have two fawns and their mother at the edge of a little stream, and so we're going to explore here. This is what Sarah did. Again, we're going to give you a longer, oh, so this is first, we're going to start with shape and gesture. So this is, we're
Yep.
going to do a quick shape and gesture, and it's going to be a really quick one. So you'll do a quick little drawing of this, getting those shapes and gestures in, and then we're going to again do a longer piece where you can then either add to your original shape and gesture drawing, or you can start anew and do it all at once, but you'll have this foundation to build on. Sarah, anything you want to share about this?
Yeah, so with this one, we will give you all 2 minutes to do this one. So the idea would be to, you can start with the gesture drawing and then add the shapes to it. You can see on mine that I started with the gesture and I got to the shapes for the two deer closest to the viewer, and then that poor little third deer did not get completed. So this one will be kind of that idea of like it will be quick, but you don't need to feel rushed. 2 minutes gives you a decent amount of time to accomplish this goal.
So this is your image and begin now. And again, yeah, how can you build in that gesture drawing, those lines, the shapes of these bodies? I always think with deer too, like their hind haunches always feel very shapely to me. And so I think figure out some really interesting ways to capture this. 15 seconds. And that is time. Come back into the space for a moment. How was that for people? What did they notice the differences between the animals, a mammal's body versus the bird body? What felt simpler? What felt different? What did you notice?
Leggy,
The
yes.
leggies,
Yeah,
yes,
the legs can be
yes.
hard. The legs can be hard. A little tip with the legs is to try to break them down into like each leg kind of two separate pieces, kind of like the thigh, upper leg and the lower leg is helpful.
Yeah, a
So
lot of people are noticing the legs. Their legs are like spider legs all over the place. Easier to do line drawings. The legs are a challenge. Birds were easier. Not at all on the same plane for size. So much simpler than birds. So we've got mixed opinions here. I'd take a leg over a wing any day, somebody says. I love that. The relationship to one another was tricky. Yes, so we have more overlapping between the bodies here. Simpler, but we need to be a little more aware of the proportions. Yeah, so I think we're seeing that is this is also an animal that does have very unique proportions because it has such small legs versus a larger, rounder body. And then also kind of a small neck and head comparatively. So this is something that, we're all unique creatures. Like I love that we had fat bird representation. We have spindly leg round rump representation here. And so yeah, figuring out kind of the dynamics of a body and how they work together. And yeah, look, I mean, I'm looking at this baby who's in the front here. And those legs are just they're all over the place. It's, like a little stick bundle coming off of their bodies. So great. Some people found this easier, some people found this harder.
I will share another pointer with the legs to think about is how I mentioned drawing the legs and kind of really trying to think about them in the two different parts, kind of the upper leg and the lower leg. And then also think about kind of if one part of the leg is angled one way, then the other part of the leg is going to be angled the other way. So to think about kind of, yeah, if one is kind of if the upper leg is veering off into one direction, then the lower leg is going to kind of veer off kind of into the opposite direction. So that's could be helpful.
We had somebody said, which I love this, said seems like fawns were plumper 150 years ago. Yes, we've got some very hardy deer here. And then I'm glad, Christine, that the gesture sketch was helpful with this, which I can really imagine. We're seeing their bodies, how their bodies are structured in this space. We're also seeing some really unique kind of curvature and that, like Sarah said, counterbalance that we see in a lot of this. So what we're going to do next is our longest drawing, and I'm going to give you, I think 10 minutes for this. I think we can actually do 10 minutes for this. And what you're going to do is, again, put this all together. And so I want to share, this is what Sarah's looked like after about 9 or 10 minutes. So this is, again, Sarah does not like that front doe or that front fawn and is ignoring it wholeheartedly.
Sorry. Just ran out of
It's
time.
okay. And it's okay if you don't get all of them in. You could even focus just on one of them if you want. That's absolutely fine. Or you could pick whichever you want, whatever feels good for your practice today. And what we want you to do is using shape, gesture, adding in those details that you feel comfortable with. We're going to give you 10 minutes to do this. And so you want to bring it all together. And so I'm going to get started now. And again, we will be off camera, but you can absolutely ask us questions or reflect at any point during that. I will give you a halfway mark, and then I will give you a 2 minute and then a 30 second. Okay.
Just to
So
answer a
yeah.
couple of the questions, somebody asked if I'm starting with a very light, rough shape and then getting dark for the final shape rather than erasing. Ding, ding, ding. You got it. That is exactly what I'm doing. So instead of erasing the shapes that I used to start with, I'm just kind of going over darker with the lines that I'm considering my final lines. Um, and someone else is asking to start a new drawing, you are welcome to start a new drawing, or you can build off of what you just did.
Absolutely.
And then I'm glad somebody mentioned the negative space because that was a good reminder that I should have mentioned that. Yes, the negative space, so the space kind of in between the deer, looking for those shapes that are formed by the space between the deer or the shapes that are formed by the space between legs, is a helpful thing to notice if you're feeling stuck. So instead of focusing on the shape of a body part of a deer, you could pivot to drawing the shape that you see kind of between them or between their features. And that could help define the shape of the deer.
Thanks, Sarah.
Yeah.
So yes, again, you can use what you've already started or start something new depending on what you want to do. We're going to do 10 minutes and let me get you over to your big slide. There you go. And begin now. We're at about halfway. Somebody's saying the doe is so elegant with a beautiful coat. Yeah, when you take time to like really look in this, you notice these details. It's really beautiful. Thanks for sharing that observation. Just about 2 minutes left. Somebody's asking, Sarah, if you want to give a little insight to this while people are finishing up, having trouble with placement. How can you set up your paper so all three figures will sit with sizing? I can't fit number three. And then somebody's saying faces are hard. Yeah.
Yeah, so for placement, that's where it is helpful to really do kind of that light sketch of the shapes and the gesture before you start going into details to try to make sure all three can fit. And yes, the faces are really hard. I like to kind of try to split the faces up into a few parts. So perhaps kind of like a circle shape, kind of for the, the big like cranium part of the head and then almost like a rounded triangle kind of added onto that for the snout. Um, so that can be helpful as well.
Somebody's saying my mama deer's face looked like a cat. That happens. Yeah. It was helpful to go back to lines when proportions seemed off. And the faces on mine looked like dogs. You know what? Dogs and cats, those are animals. You're achieving an animal face. This is all our beginning practice. Yeah, was to get their smiles. To how do you capture an expression in an animal? Yeah. Oh, my fault for that. There we go. We are just finishing up, so put the last details on what you have. And there we go. So come back into the space. Sarah and I are going to turn our cameras back on. And how was that for people? We had some great reflections, so thank you for that. I'm going to head us to the next page. So while you're reflecting, yeah, some of the key takeaways that we want from this is that scientific illustrations created by artists like Audubon feature flat, neutral lighting, simple backgrounds, and poses that are characteristic of the bird or animal shown. Artistic representations of birds and animals feature stronger on light and shadow, brighter colors, and may include a full and romanticized background. Speed shape sketches and gesture sketches are helpful for warm-ups. You can also start a slower drawing with that and then build on that, like we talked about building the body foundations from there. And then when drawing birds, notice how the feathers are divided into groups and the placement of the eye is important for accuracy.
I like one of our participants said cubist deer.
Cubist deer, exactly. Great. Okay. So we're now in this Q&A portion of this. And Rebecca has a question, which is how can you see session two? Tried but unable to access it. It is on our website. So if you go to shelburnemuseum.org/learn and then webinars or just /webinars, all of the previous webinars will be up there. So if you scroll down, there'll be the current listings and then it'll say 2026 webinars and all of the past webinars are there. And then if you scroll down even further, you can also see the portrait and figure drawing series if you'd like to revisit that as well. Any other questions or reflections that you have from today's session that you'd like to share? And then while people are typing those in, our next session is March 18th at 12 p.m. What we'll be doing is taking together some of what we've done, applying a few additional techniques to kind of finalize some of your drawings or get them into that more, and then bringing it all together. So make sure you're signed up. We'll send an email out there as well. And then you can always ask us questions at education@shelburnemuseum.org. And then I'm looking at some of this. We have folks who said, thank you for the lunch I'm offering. We're so glad you join us and we're so glad you're having fun. You paid Pictionary with a group last year and the courses have made you drawing better quickly. Amazing. We're creating like game sharks. Yeah. Doing a preliminary sketch helps the final drawing. Thank you. Thank you. We're so glad you're here.
Ooh,
Um,
someone asked about staying
yeah.
light and loose. Something that and tips for maintaining kind of like a light and loose kind of drawing. I find it really helpful to kind of turn your pen or pencil that's blurred a little bit more on its side. That can be helpful with staying loose, is to have it angled more to the side.
Great. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to see, I'm has expanded my vision of techniques to apply. Wonderful. Great, great, great. I'm so glad you're having fun and learning. This is amazing. Okay. Wonderful. Thanks for the guidance. We're so glad you're here with us. And then while we're doing this, I always want to say we're so thankful for our members, our museum membership, and the folks who are members, and also our donors who help us have these free events for everybody and keep these free. If you're at all, yes, and I will go back to the owl. So, yes, perfect. Okay. Past classes, shelburnemuseum.org. And if Isa is there and can maybe put that, I don't know if we can put that in the chat or in the Q&A. It is shelburnemuseum.org /webinars. And that should
Also,
get
up on the homepage, you can
perfect.
access webinars on the homepage on the main banner, or if you scroll down, you'll see it says webinars. And then once you get to that page, make sure you scroll down past the upcoming webinars and you'll see a section that says past webinars.
Thank you. That's Isa, by the way, who is our behind the scenes person who helps run this webinar. So we're so grateful for them to be here. Okay, great. Let me go back. We had somebody who asked about the owls. So I just want to go back to the owls for a second because somebody wants to see those and continue drawing them. So let me get back to that page. And if there's anything else folks would like in this moment, please let me know. And I'm happy to go back to any pages. And if you are with us still, feel free to head out. We're so grateful. We'll just hold the owls up. And if there's anything else that anybody would like, please let us know. And we hope we all see you for our final session, which is on March 18th. And we're so thrilled to do this with you and to do this work. And y'all make it a real joy of our day. Okay, great. And then I'll go back to the deer one more time. Do our owl folks have our owls? My guess is yes. But please let me know. Okay, great. I'm going to go ahead and go to deer and let me get a big deer photo. Yeah, there's our deer, our doe and two fawns. Thank you, Arthur, for giving us these friends to draw. Oh, Lisa, Lisa, thank you. Learned a lot. Relaxing is important, and I think that's great. People come to these for all different reasons. Some of it's for a more elaborate practice. Some of it is to have just a creative moment in your day, and we're happy to welcome you for whatever you need. So thank you. Great. And Simone, are there any of the birds you'd like, or just all of them? I'm gonna just stay. I'm gonna go through. So we've got our deer. Let me go. So these are our red phalarope. And then I'll go back to our pigeons momentarily, just in case anybody also wants the pigeons. And I'm so glad folks are accessing these online. And if you want to practice, the other thing is you don't ever have to follow our timing if you go back and practice. So you might say, oh, I want to go into the owls and I want to do a 10-minute sketch for that. You can use these however it benefits your own creative practice and however you're going to get the most out of them. So I'm so glad people are accessing that. Let me go back also to pigeons, just in case. Great. Here are pigeons in case anybody needs the pigeons. All right, folks. I'm going to get to that final slide and then we're going to say thank you so much. Oh, I'm out of this and we're here. So thank you so much for joining us today and keep creating and we'll see you in a couple of weeks. All right. Thanks so much, friends. Have a great
Bye all.
day.